This bulletin proudly brought to you in association with Alex Campbell's Menswear.
Tonight on The South Today, Australian-based Dunedin songwriter Matt Joe Gow shares his experience in Christchurch's managed isolation. Dunedin has a new tasty addition to its winning achievements after a toasted sandwich takes out a national title. And a children's entertainer hosts a songwriting workshop to help adults write songs for youngsters. Kia ora, good evening, I'm Melissa Barton. Multi-award winning Australian-based Dunedin musician Matt Joe Gow is currently holed up in Christchurch managed isolation hotel. The Auckland-born songwriter is on his way to see family in Dunedin and describes what life is like in solo quarantine for 14 days.
Life behind bars and a blackout screen. Australian-based Dunedin songwriter Matt Joe Gow is in managed isolation at Christchurch's Distinction Hotel.
I did have the day 3 test, yeah, and I think I have a day 10 test as well, so that was negative, which was good, and hopefully the next one will be negative and I can get out on day 14.
Gow was on his way to see family in Dunedin and caught up over Zoom from his room overlooking central Christchurch. He's philosophical about being cooped up alone for 14 days.
I kind of came in knowing that obviously I'd have the 14 days, so I planned to try and get some work done and record some stuff, so it's been okay for me.
Like many other musicians, he was scheduled to be touring internationally, but understands international travel and playing to large crowds isn't safe. Also, he needs to be near family right now.
My mum's not very well, unfortunately, so family first, and I wanted to come and help out, so which has been really difficult to get back. Trying to get back for the last couple months.
Like many people trying to return to their country of origin, he says getting flights has been a trying experience.
I had to spend a day in Hong Kong in the airport, and then Auckland, and then we flew down to Christchurch. So, yeah.
People in managed isolation are delivered meals to their doors, and Gow says it's better than airline food.
You know, it's not bad food, but it's not probably what I would usually eat. I mean, I've been living in Asia for a few months, so it's just pretty different.
Like many musicians, Gow has been working on music through lockdown, and like his peers, plans to perform a live stream concert, playing live from his quarantine room to his Facebook page this Friday from 9:30 p.m. In Dunedin, The South Today.
Fire and Emergency New Zealand are urging Otago farmers to take a cautious approach to burn-offs. 2 out-of-control fires burnt through almost 2,000 hectares of land yesterday. The fires near Macraes and Queenstown both started as burn-offs. It took as many as 7 helicopters and 5 ground crew to bring the Macraes fire under control. Fire and Emergency New Zealand says land managers should speak to their local fire officer before any burn-off. The fire service says it understands the need to prepare land with fire, but wants to ensure anyone who could be impacted is notified beforehand. A Dunedin sandwich shop has secured official bragging rights over the best toastie in the country. Hungry Hobos and its good old-fashioned comfort food has won this year's Great New Zealand Toastie Takeover, heading off more than 80 other entries in the McClure's Pickles competition.
Displaying the spoils from a tasty competition win.
So yeah, pretty proud, looking forward to showing off the trophy I've got now to the regulars. They've been asking every day for the last month, you know, when's it announced, and so yeah, that'll be pretty cool.
The Bat Out of Hell Toastie has been labelled a joyous eat by judges of the McClure's Pickles competition. Hungry Hobo's proprietor Romeo Dowling Mitchell says the win is exciting and promising.
Yeah, you couldn't ask for better, being a toasted sandwich restaurant and then winning it, so should drum up a fair bit of business.
The Bat Out of Hell features homemade meatloaf, mashed potatoes, gravy, aged cheddar and sweet spicy pickles, on herb-buttered ciabatta bread. Dowling Mitchell says it's great to have the bragging rights for the sandwich, which may or may not have been influenced by his late teenage years.
Wanted something that, almost something you'd whip up, you know, when you were 18 and you'd get home from the pub and you'd raid your parents' fridge and there might be some leftover, you know, meatloaf and mashed potato or something in there, and then they've happened to buy a jar of nice pickles, so you shove some of those in there, and they've got the nice aged cheddar because, you know, your parents got the money for that sort of thing, and, you know, so you throw together this awesome sandwich. It just all happens to work really well, and you just sit there stoked having this awesome, big, hot sandwich.
Head judge Kerry Tyack says the toasted sandwich is a total surprise. Dowling Mitchell says at first he thought the call notifying him of the win was a prank call. In Dunedin, the South Today.
A motorist who travelled the wrong way on a one-way street in Dunedin last night failed an alcohol breath test. Police noticed the vehicle travelling the wrong way in Union Street West about 10:45 p.m. and stopped the vehicle. The driver, a 38-year-old man, had a reading of 738 micrograms of alcohol per litre of breath. That's almost 3 times the legal limit of 250 micrograms of alcohol per litre of breath. His driver's licence has been suspended. Children's songwriter and entertainer Kath B was in Dunedin this week to teach songwriting workshops for kids and adults.
Pop, 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 pop.
It's not a workshop for pop music, but one for kids songwriting. The workshop was held this week at St Clair School and run by children's songwriter Kath B, who has been a children's entertainer for 20 years.
Songwriting is such a broad thing that everybody writes differently, and there's so many different songs for children that serve different purposes. So you might have a lullaby, or you might have a little mat session song for kindy, or you might have an action song, so there's so many different types of songs you can write. It's very hard to kind of put anything in a box.
The workshop focuses on lyrics rather than the melody of the song itself. B says you have to keep the child in mind when writing for them.
So if you are not thinking from the child's point of view, then it's not going to work for them.
She says some kids have come up with beautiful songs about saving the planet or someone they love, but some songwriters aren't quite Lennon or McCartney just yet.
Well, yesterday someone wrote about their fuzzy pink underwear.
After studying at the Nelson School of Music, B discovered that she could write music for herself. As well as being fun, informative and inclusive, B says children's music can be therapeutic.
A lot of the songs I write, I try and make sure that they know that, you know, we're all human. So anything that kind of happens to us happens to all of us. You don't have to feel like I'm the only one going through this.
One of B's next projects, if funding goes ahead, is teaching and recording children to sing her songs. And if you would like to hear more of B's music, her albums can be found on iTunes and Spotify.
Said you haven't got a hump or a pocket in the front, so you just have to settle for you, settle for you, settle for you.
In Dunedin, the South Today.
Still to come on the South Today. We visit a historic piece of coffee roasting equipment that's returned home, and we have this week's edition of Global Insight with Professor Robert Patman. So catch this and more after the break.
Hi, Al Campbell Menswear. We're back in George Street on the corner of Hanover Street. Come and check out our big store. It's a big space full of bargains. Now look at these shirts. There's shirts for everybody here. Look at these merino pullovers, stacks of moleskins, literally tons of trousers. Check out these big racks of sports jackets. Beautiful.
Every reason, every season, we're proud to dress the region. Alex Campbell Menswear, it fits.
So come and check out Alex Campbell Menswear. We're back on George Street in the old ANZ building.
If you're at risk of developing melanoma skin cancer, you owe it to yourself to have a mole map. Mole map is coming to your area. Phone today to make an appointment. It could save your life.
You've seen us in the street, now find us online. Check out shopon.org.nz. We have all sorts of treasures, from retro and vintage clothing to antiques, homewares and accessories. New items added every week. We're open 24/7.
A poorly maintained heat pump can lose up to 35% of its output. The Mr. Heat Pump Cleaner team are experts. Their specially developed chemical wash is totally biodegradable. Call Mr. Heat Pump Cleaner and get the job done by the professionals.
Every reason, every season, we're proud to dress the region. Alex Campbell Menswear, it fits.
Welcome back. Nearly a century after the 1915 Jacob J.B.'s Burns coffee roaster was removed from the former Greggs factory in Friat Street, a Dunedin property developer has managed to reunite it with the building. The project's backers say the machine's return has come about by chance.
An historic coffee roaster returns home. Dunedin property developer Russell Lund is turning this former coffee factory building into an apartment complex called Thomas Gregg Apartments.
We designed the building around this roaster. We knew right from the outset that we wanted to put this in the lobby where it is now, pride of place, and so we sized the lobby, which is quite generously sized for a small apartment building, for that specific purpose.
Lund says early on in the project he approached Cerebus Greggs and asked if they had any small bits of memorabilia and leapt at the chance to house this company artefact.
And so it was one of those really fortunate things in life. We rang Greggs, and the manager there, a lady by the name of Glenys Fraser, just says, "Oh, actually, we've got the original roaster there. We were going to use it in our lobby, but it was too big. Would you like to have it?" It's like, yes, we would.
This machine operated in the Friat Street building until the factory was moved in 1925. Greggs kept the machine and used it in the 4th Street factory right up until 2011, when it was retired and replaced.
And we've made an agreement with Greggs that it's on permanent loan, and we will always have it displayed in its final resting place here. And the great thing about this is that this roaster was built in 1915. It actually was in this building for 10 years, because Greggs moved out of this building in 1925 to their present premises in 4th Street.
The roaster is glassed in, and Lund says it's the centrepiece of the whole building, which he estimates will be completed about the end of September. In Dunedin, The South Today.
On tonight's Global Insight, New Zealand politicians need to say whether they would hold the United Kingdom to account if elected, Professor Robert Patman says. The University of Otago International Affairs Specialist says UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson has acknowledged his government will break the law by reneging on the Brexit deal with the European Union.
Voting in the New Zealand general election begins in 3 weeks. Are political parties' foreign policies the crucial forgotten element? Welcome, Robert.
Morning, Bruce.
So, Robert, what would you say is the most important foreign policy question for New Zealand going into the general election?
I think one of the most important issues, the core issue for New Zealand, is to maintain and strengthen the international rules-based system in which this country critically depends. Our national interests depend on international rules. And only in the last 7 days we've seen a very disturbing development where the Johnson government in the UK is proposing to renege on an international treaty, the withdrawal agreement that they signed in January with the EU. Now this is a very disquieting development because it raises questions for a country like New Zealand we're in the process of negotiating a free trade agreement. Britain, at the moment, under the Johnson government, is proposing to renege on an agreement it's just made with 27 liberal democracies in the EU. That's bad news. How can we be confident that the Johnson government is going to honour any international agreement with us? So I think there's two steps that New Zealand parties, or parties that are competing for power, we would like to hear from this election. Do they uphold the international rules-based order in which our national interest depends? And secondly, they should they not ask the British and tell them, actually, that it's unacceptable to break an international treaty. And that unless they take this into account, unless they pledge not to break that treaty, then that raises into question whether we should be signing a free trade agreement with a country which has demonstrated it will not necessarily honour an international agreement that it's signed.
Thank you, Robert.
Thank you.
And thank you for watching. Catch us next time on Global Insight. Ka kite anō.
And you can watch the full interview with Professor Patman online at odt.co.nz. After the break on The South Today, we have a look at some of this weekend's sporting action and football chat and take a look at the weather heading into the weekend. So see you after the break.
Every season, we're proud to dress the region. Alex Campbell Menswear, it fits.
Risk of developing melanoma skin cancer, you owe it to yourself to have a mole map. Mole map is coming to your area. Phone today to make an appointment. It could save your life.
Step into Shop on Carrot and discover a shop full of treasures. We have a fantastic range of vintage and retro clothes, upmarket clothing labels, collectible items, beautiful jewellery, quality linen and the best range of vintage haberdashery.
A poorly maintained heat pump can lose up to 35% of its output. The Mr. Heat Pump Cleaner team are experts. Their specially developed chemical wash is totally biodegradable. Call Mr. Heat Pump Cleaner and get the job done by the professionals.
Hi, Alex Campbell Menswear. We're back in George Street on the corner of Hanover Street. Come and check out our big store. It's a big space full of bargains. Now look at these shirts. There's shirts for everybody here. Look at these merino pullovers, stacks of moleskins, literally tons of trousers. Check out these big racks of sports jackets. Beautiful.
Every reason, every season, we're proud to dress the region. Alex Campbell Menswear, it fits.
So come and check out Alex Campbell Menswear. We're back on George Street in the old ANZ building.
Ah, TV, our favourite babysitter. But it can be tough keeping up with what our tamariki are watching. Luckily, the Broadcasting Standards Authority has made some smart changes to the classification labels. Ooh! Plus changes to the time of day certain rated shows will air and awesome new parental lock features, meaning your babysitter's job is safe. Find out more at safeviewing.co.nz.
Thanks for staying with us. A new Southern Premier League football champion was crowned at the weekend, with Green Island taking their first title in 30 years. This week on Football Chat, Morgan Jarvis talks with Wanaka AFC duo Adam Hewson and Fletcher Kavanagh about their season and why Green Island were so hard to beat.
Welcome to another week of Football Chat. We saw a new SPL champion crowned in the weekend. Green Island, look, they've claimed the title with 3 rounds to go. Incredible effort. So congratulations to the club there. No one really seems to know when they last won a Prem title. It predated the internet. It might have even predated the printing press. And also in the WPL, well, Dunedin Tech, they put on an absolute clinic down on the turf on Friday night. So they've all but confirmed another WPL title, which we'll get to soon. But look, I'd like to welcome in a couple of guests today. So we've got Fletcher Kavanagh and Adam Hewson, both starring for Wanaka in the SPL this year. Thanks for coming in, guys. Great to get a couple of guests in from the Wanaka side. Adam, look, your name stands out pretty much every week in the match reports and that. But like, can you tell me what's behind the team's success this year? Because you've taken a few, people around Dunedin by surprise and beating out a lot of quite well-established clubs in town.
Yeah, I think it's just we we've kind of been the underdog, and I mean I love being the underdog type thing. We've been, I think, the second year back in it, so I think they just got that bit more want about them this year. Last year they had a few where they won some but didn't really finish where they wanted to finish, but this year just seems to be a bit more urgency type thing. I hear the training's always quite good as well. Everyone's always fighting for a spot type thing, even though the squad could change week in, week out pretty easily, but no, it just seems to be a bit more there.
Great, and so being based in Dunedin yourself, you're not necessarily training with your teammates?
No, so it's hard to not train there, but for me living here, it's enjoying it here. I'm glad that Mosgiel allowed me to train there, so I'm really thankful for that. But yeah, I think after a couple of games every Saturday, and I used to play with them quite a bit through school and just when I did live in Wanaka. So, I mean, not too big of a miss really, it works out well enough.
Yeah, great. And Fletcher, look, you're one of a big load of teenagers in that Wanaka side that it looks like you've all sort of, a lot of you come through school and that together up there. What's the secret to all of the impressive young footballers that are coming through there?
I just feel like, we've got a good little system in Wanaka. I've personally had Ian Bell, our coach currently, since probably the age of 10 or 11 as my coach, and I've played with, 2 weeks ago against Mosgiel, we had 9 boys that have played from young in the academy and Wanaka football all the way up to Prem, so I know like a lot of chemistry that builds up when you play together for that long, and just topping it off with a lot of experience with older people, so I just feel like it's a good recipe, good chemistry and good.
And the full episode of this week's Football Chat will play on Channel 39 at 8 p.m. on Friday and is available anytime on odt.co.nz. And now recapping tonight's top stories on the South today. Australian-based Dunedin songwriter Matt Joe Gow shares his experience in Christchurch's managed isolation on his way home. Dunedin has a new tasty addition to its winning achievements after a meatloaf-based toasted sandwich takes out a national title. And a children's entertainer hosts a songwriting workshop to help adults write songs for youngsters. And now look at what's happening in tomorrow's ODT. Welcome, Hayden Meikle. What have you got for us in tomorrow's paper?
Good evening, Mel. Some interesting stories tomorrow. The first comes out of Queenstown, and Queenstown Mayor Jim Bolt coming out today and saying he wants social distancing on aeroplanes canned, i.e. so we can get more and more people into Queenstown to start spending the tourism dollar. Very interesting, obviously, from Jim. Early on, Queenstown made it clear they didn't want sort of quarantine hotels. They were fearful about the spread of COVID-19. Now he's saying the economic situation in Queenstown is simply so desperate they can't last with a quarter or a third of the usual traffic through the airport. They want everybody in. Raises a lot of questions, obviously, given the situation in Auckland, and we are seeking reaction from all sorts of people, from the DHBs to the Minister of Health to the Queenstown Chamber of Commerce. Look, Queenstown's in a really tough situation. It needs people. It relies so heavily on those tourists, and with the international market having collapsed, They want ways to get more domestic people in. So that'll be interesting. That'll create some reaction, I imagine. And another story from the regions, look, it's the run into the election, so money's getting promised left, right and centre, and today Labor has promised 70 million for the Lake Onslow hydro scheme, the proposal, obviously, pumped scheme, as part of their commitment to a completely renewable power supply within a decade. So, close at home in Dunedin, Otago Boys High School celebrating today. Another grant, the government again dishing out $3 million from the Ministry of Education for the refurbishment of a historic building, I think the Shan building at Otago Boys High School, to be used as a performing arts centre. So great news for the school, not only a brand spanking new facility, but holding on to one of those historic buildings.
And great news for Dunedin too.
Really nice. So, and then a whole bunch of sport, including a good yarn with Nasi Manu, back from the Highlanders to play for Otago.
Perfect. So you can catch all of this and more in tomorrow's ODT. And now it's time for a look at the weather.
Tonight's weather proudly brought to you by Mole Map.
Beginning with the southern view, lenticular cloud over Dunedin. Looking at the situation, a mixed weekend ahead depending on where you are in the South Island, as a westerly airflow slowly develops, bringing some cloud to the west and south. Starting at the northwest of the South Island, Greymouth and Westport are set for 14-degree highs, along with blue skies in Greymouth and Westport. Across to the northeast, cloudy skies for this area with 11 degrees in Blenheim and 14 in Nelson. Moving to Canterbury, rain with 9 degrees in Kaikoura and Christchurch and 8 degrees in Ashburton. To the southern towns, all areas here can expect light winds and fine conditions. Planned for 11-degree highs for the Catlins, Balclutha, Lumsden and Gore. And moving to central Otago, light southwesterlies becoming fine across this region. It's 9 degrees for Queenstown and Wanaka and 10 for Alexandra, and Tiana reaches a high of 11. To the northern towns, light southwesterlies, and there will be some fine weather for this area. 11 degrees in Timaru and Oamaru inland. You can expect 10 degrees in Twizel and Demarama. In Dunedin, showers tonight with cold southerlies and an overnight low of 4. Showers will clear tomorrow morning and it will become fine with increasing sunny periods, but still very cold southwesterlies will be around for a bit and then they'll die out, looking at a high of 9 and a low of 0. Mostly fine and sunny on Saturday with northeasterlies developing, making the day a bit cooler later on, looking at a high of 12 and a low of 5. And in Invercargill, showers clearing tonight with an overnight low of 3. Becoming fine and sunny during the day tomorrow with cold southwesterlies dying out, a high of 9 and a low of 0. And it's fine on Saturday with sunny periods, but cloud will increase during the day, combined with moderate to fresh westerlies developing later on. Looking at a high of 14 and a low of 5. And that's all from the South Today team for this Thursday. Have a great evening. And remember the latest news from the southern regions, head to odt.co.nz and follow Channel 39 on Facebook and YouTube. Ka kite anō.
This bulletin proudly brought to you in association with Alex Campbell's Menswear.
Supporting local content so you can see more of New Zealand on air.